Underneath everything you carry, there is a tiredness that doesn't go away with sleep. It lingers in your bones, in the way you breathe, in the way you hold yourself, even when no one is watching. Before we begin, if these words find you, if they make you feel seen in a way that no one else has, consider subscribing. Consider staying close to this space so you can return whenever you need a voice that understands. Have you noticed how exhaustion can reshape you? Not just in your body, but in your very identity. Emotional exhaustion does something subtle, something quiet, something insidious. At first, it shows up in the little ways. A sigh you don't mean to release, a forgotten joy, a hesitation before saying yes to an invitation. And then, over time, it takes root until you no longer remember who you were before the weight settled in. There are wounds that bleed openly, but exhaustion is the kind that seeps slowly, making you believe it's simply who you are now. I'm just not a people person anymore. I don't care about much these days. I'm fine, really. Just tired. These are the lies exhaustion whispers until you confuse it with your personality. Virginia Woolf once wrote, "You cannot find peace by avoiding life." But what happens when life itself is what drained you? When every attempt to participate only deepened the exhaustion? You retreat, you pull back, and slowly, retreat becomes identity. You wake up each day carrying a weariness that others cannot see. They may say, "But you're so strong," or "You're always so calm," not realizing that strength and calmness are just disguises worn thin by fatigue. Emotional exhaustion becomes the lens through which you see yourself, and worse, how others come to see you. Maybe once you were lively, vibrant, full of laughter that reached across the room, but heartbreak chipped at that brightness. Loss dimmed it. Repeated disappointments cracked it. And somewhere along the way, you stopped waiting for your energy to come back. You simply built a life around the absence of it. Exhaustion makes you efficient at disappearing, at saying little, at nodding instead of speaking, at being agreeable so conflict doesn't drain you further. People think you're easygoing. They call you chill. They don't know it's just that you don't have the strength left to explain yourself. And slowly, this becomes who you are. At least, that's what you think. But pause with me here. Is it really who you are? Or is it simply who you've become in response to a world that demanded more than you had to give? Sometimes the self you present is nothing more than a survival strategy. And survival, though necessary, is not the same as identity. Emotional exhaustion masquerades as personality because you've carried it so long it feels permanent. But like any wound, it isn't who you are. It's what happened to you. Take a breath. Right here, right now. Let yourself feel the truth of that. You are not your tiredness. You are not your numbness. You are not your silence. You are the one beneath it, waiting. As Rumi once wrote, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if winter lingers longer than you expected." Yes, exhaustion can feel like a permanent winter, but no winter has ever lasted forever. And I know, healing feels distant. It feels almost cruel to imagine energy returning, joy returning, when you've worn this heaviness for so long. But listen closely. Just because exhaustion has shaped your days does not mean it owns your future. Your essence is still here, quiet but intact. Before we close, if these words sit heavy but also strangely comforting, stay with us. Subscribe so you can keep walking this road with company. And remember, after these words end, A few minutes of soft music will remain, for you to breathe, for you to be, for you to rest. When exhaustion becomes identity, you start to believe that stillness is your nature, when in truth, it is only your shield. Shields are heavy, but you've worn yours so long that you no longer feel its weight. You simply call it me. Think of the times you declined invitations, not because you didn't care, but because the thought of showing up, smiling, engaging, felt like walking with stones in your chest. Others thought you were distant. Some may even have called you cold. But it wasn't coldness. It was depletion. There's a cruelty in how the world interprets exhaustion. It doesn't see the invisible effort you spend just to get out of bed. It doesn't notice the way you replay conversations before they happen, calculating how much energy you can afford to spend. Instead, the world decides you're quiet, withdrawn, introverted, as if your silence were a choice rather than a symptom. Nietzsche once wrote, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." Exhaustion weaves such threads in you, silent connections between your pain and the mask you wear. You walk among others, but they cannot see the cost of each step. You've carried this so long that your own reflection feels unfamiliar. Do you remember the sound of your laughter when it was free? The sparkle in your eyes before they learned to dim themselves for protection? That person is still within you, though buried under layers of fatigue and guardedness. Here is the tender truth. Exhaustion is not your essence. It is your body and soul asking for gentleness after too many storms. But when no gentleness comes, you adapt. You call your defenses personality. You settle for half presence. You begin to think that being numb is safer than being alive. Pause again. Notice the space around these words. Notice your breath. Exhaustion has convinced you that you are small, but the very act of listening now proves otherwise. There is more to you than weariness. Maybe the world took your energy piece by piece. Maybe someone demanded too much and gave too little. Maybe heartbreak hollowed you out until even joy felt like a risk you couldn't afford. Whatever the cause, it is not who you are. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not unloving. You are exhausted, and exhaustion can be healed. The danger is forgetting this distinction. The danger is building your entire sense of self on a wound. Because if you forget who you were, you will stop believing in who you could become. There is still light in you, even if it flickers faintly. There is still strength in you, even if it trembles. Exhaustion may have bent you, but it has not erased you. Let these words sink into the places you've silenced. Let them remind you that your tiredness does not define your soul. And if you've found resonance here, if these whispers have met you where you are, remember, you don't have to walk this road alone. Subscribe, return. Let this space be a companion for your healing. Stay after the final words for a few minutes of gentle music. Time just for you, to rest, to breathe, to feel even a small crack of light enter the dark. Emotional exhaustion creeps in quietly, but once it settles, it alters the rhythm of your life. You no longer move with spontaneity, you calculate. Every choice becomes a negotiation with your energy. Can I afford this conversation? Will this outing cost me tomorrow? Do I have enough left to smile when they expect me to? Others may not notice this constant calculation. To them, you look calm, perhaps even grounded. But inside, it is not calm. It is survival. You have built an entire identity around conserving what little remains of you. And here is the most tragic part. You forget the difference between conserving energy and withholding life. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and instead ask, "What can I survive?" Slowly, survival replaces desire. The poets knew this kind of weariness. Charles Bukowski once wrote, "People are strange. They are constantly angered by trivial things, but on a major matter like totally wasting their lives, they hardly notice." Exhaustion steals life from you this way, not in one sudden theft, but in countless small withdrawals, until you can't even remember what full living felt like. And yet, there is something sacred in naming it, in saying out loud, "I am tired, but this tiredness is not me. It is only visiting. It is only lingering." Think of a forest after a fire. The trees look ruined, the ground scorched. But beneath the ash, roots wait, seeds wait, life waits. Your exhaustion is the ash. It covers everything. It seems final. But beneath it, your roots are alive. Do you know why I'm telling you this? Because exhaustion lies. It tells you, this is permanent. This is who you are now. But the truth is quieter, gentler. This is only where you are now. The difference matters. If exhaustion has become your personality, it means you've been strong for far too long. It means you've been carrying storms without shelter, heartbreak without comfort, burdens without rest. And you adapted, as all humans do. You wore tiredness as an identity because you had no other choice. But identities built in survival are not the truth of your soul. You deserve to remember your soul. Perhaps no one told you this before. Perhaps you've been admired for your silence, for your endurance, for how together you seem. But being admired for surviving is not the same as being loved for existing. And you deserve love, the kind that doesn't ask for more than you can give, the kind that doesn't mistake your exhaustion for indifference. Take these words as a reminder. You are more than the tiredness you wear. Stay with me a little longer. Breathe as you listen. Let yourself feel what you've hidden, even if just for a moment. And if you find yourself wishing you could return here, wishing you could be held in words like these again, subscribe. Keep close. Let this space remind you, again and again, of who you are beneath the exhaustion. When this ends, the music will remain. A space for you to rest. A place where your tiredness is allowed, but not mistaken for your essence. Exhaustion is a language the body speaks when the soul has been ignored. It is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is the echo of unmet needs. Yet over time, when no one listens, that echo becomes your constant background noise. And because you live with it so long, you mistake it for your identity. You begin to say, "I'm just like this. I'm not a social person. I don't have energy for relationships. I don't dream like I used to." But none of these statements are your truth. They are symptoms. They are the voice of exhaustion, borrowing your tongue. Sometimes I wonder, how many dreams have died this way? Not because they were impossible, but because the person carrying them was too tired to keep them alive. How many loves faded, not for lack of feeling, but for lack of energy to nurture them? Rumi once wrote, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if you have never heard of spring." Exhaustion convinces you there will be no spring. It tells you the winter is eternal. But Rumi was right. Hearts do have seasons, and yours is not finished. The danger lies in convincing yourself that the winter is who you are. That numbness is your character. That heaviness is your essence. No, heaviness is what happens when light has been held back too long. Let me tell you this gently. You are not the ash. You are the ember. You are not the silence. You are the voice waiting beneath it. Exhaustion covers, but it does not erase. Think of the child you once were. Remember how easily you laughed, how deeply you felt, how naturally you trusted. That child is still here, waiting behind the walls exhaustion has built. And every time you allow yourself to listen to words like these, you open a small door back to them. It's hard, I know, because the world often rewards exhaustion. They call you strong when you keep going despite being empty. They admire your resilience, your work ethic, your ability to push through pain. But what they don't see is the cost. Strength without rest is not strength. It is erosion. And erosion eventually turns stone into dust. I want you to remember this. The person you are beneath exhaustion is still reachable. They are not lost, only hidden. And every breath you take in awareness, every moment you rest without guilt, every tear you allow yourself to release brings them closer. So let this be a whisper to you. Exhaustion is visiting, not residing. It is loud, but it is not final. You may feel as if it has carved itself into your personality, but that's not the truth. The truth is, you are still here. You are still more. Stay with these words until the end. And when they fade, let the music hold you. Let it be a small shelter, a reminder that you deserve not only survival, but also restoration. And if you wish to return to this shelter, subscribe. Let it be a gentle commitment to yourself, to come back, to listen, to heal in your own time. There comes a moment when exhaustion doesn't just weigh on your body, it begins to shape your story. You find yourself telling people, "I'm the quiet one," or "I don't really need much," or "I've always been like this." But the truth is, you weren't always like this. You became like this. And becoming is not the same as being. Exhaustion carves patterns into you, and the longer it stays, the deeper those patterns feel. But you must know, these grooves are not your destiny. They are simply the marks of what you've carried. Imagine water running over rock. At first, it seems harmless, a gentle stream. But years pass, and the water shapes the stone. That is what exhaustion does to the spirit. Day after day, it erodes your joy, your spontaneity, your light. And then one day, you wake up believing the erosion is your true form. But it isn't. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "The most painful state of being is remembering the future you can never have." Exhaustion creates this exact pain. It makes you mourn lives you could have lived, loves you could have experienced, paths you could have walked, if only you weren't so tired. But listen to me carefully. Mourning is not the end. Mourning is a sign that you still care, that somewhere beneath the weight, you still long for more. And longing is proof of life. Maybe you don't remember what hope feels like. Maybe it feels foolish to even try. But hope does not need your permission to exist. It waits quietly, like a seed under frozen soil. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but it is there. Exhaustion wants you to believe there is nothing left. But seeds do not disappear simply because winter is long. Do you understand? The part of you that loves, that dreams, that creates, that part is not gone. It is resting beneath the ash, waiting for the day you no longer mistake survival for living. And so, I ask you this, softly. If exhaustion has become your personality, are you ready to let even one small piece of yourself return? Not everything at once. Not all the light in a single day. Just one spark. That spark could be as small as letting yourself cry without apology. It could be writing a thought down instead of swallowing it. It could be stepping outside for 5 minutes, not because you have to, but because you are allowed to. Tiny sparks create flame. Flame creates warmth. And warmth invites you back to yourself. You may be listening to this and thinking, "It's too late for me. I've been tired too long." But let me whisper the truth. It is never too late for life to reach back for you. Exhaustion has written many chapters in your story, but it does not get to write the final page. Stay here. Let my words remind you of what exhaustion wants you to forget. You are not your tiredness. You are the one who still longs, even in the tiredness. You are the one who still aches for meaning. You are the one who still listens, even now. And that listening is proof. You are not gone. When this ends, let the music hold you. Let it tell you, in a language beyond words, that you are allowed to rest without losing yourself. You are allowed to heal without rushing. You are allowed to begin again, even now. And if this whisper touched you, subscribe. Return here when you need a voice to remind you that your exhaustion is not your identity. It is only the shadow covering it. And here we pause, in the middle of the shadows that have shaped you. There's more that whispers in the silence, more that lingers beneath the surface. Don't stop now. The journey continues, and the truth that waits for you in the next part is even deeper. Stay with us and step into the second chapter of your own awakening. Now, we'll leave you with calming music to soothe your nerves and bring a soft kind of peace to your inner world.